Hi, I'm Ronnie Panu, Director and Founder of Panu Tax Disputes and Investigations. At Panu Tax, we help our clients to manage and resolve all types of HMRC inquiries, investigations and disputes. HMRC undertakes many tens of thousands of inquiries and investigations each year, but very few of these are selected on a random basis. So in the majority of cases, the inquiry is started following a review of your tax return, the tax return of your business or other information held on file by the tax inspector. And as a result of that review, the inspector believes that there is the potential for unpaid taxes. There are in essence two types of inquiry. An aspect inquiry, which involves the inspector looking at a particular aspect or part of your tax return or your tax affairs, and a full inquiry, which is a more fundamental review of your tax return or the tax return of your business. So if you run a business, then a full inquiry can mean HMRC wanting to understand your business in detail and also review the business's books and records and other financial information. So in recent years, HMRC have been doing this type of inquiry on what they call a cross-tax basis. So this is a review of all the taxes that your business might pay. So that could be income tax, corporation tax, VAT or payroll taxes. And what these sorts of reviews do is look at all those taxes at the same time. So what this can mean in practice is you can have potentially up to 4 or 5 HMRC officers and inspectors on your business premises looking at all the business records for a period of anything up to a week. So if you've got a full tax inquiry from HMRC, care needs to be taken in terms of how you respond, and you may want to consider taking specialist advice. Equally, in an aspect inquiry, if matters aren't progressing as quickly or as well as you'd like, then again consider taking specialist advice to see whether anything can be done to move matters forward. So if I'm involved in advising on a full or aspect inquiry, what I usually do at an early stage is to engage with the inspector. And this early engagement helps me to better understand the risks and issues that have been highlighted by the inspector, and then enables me to better manage the process from an early stage. So if I do understand these issues properly from the start of the inquiry, it then helps me to, for example, ensure that if there are any misunderstandings, that these can be dealt with quickly and efficiently at the start of the inquiry, and we can really focus on those risks that the inspector believes to be present in relation to your tax affairs. So an early engagement with the inspector then also helps me later down the line, as I said earlier. So for example, there will come a point when the inspector will ask for documents and information. So if I properly understand and had that effective engagement, it then helps me to understand whether that information request is legitimate and relevant to the actual risks that have been identified by the inspector in the first place. So properly managing the information request from the inspector requires a detailed understanding of HMRC's legal powers to obtain documents and information. So as part of any effective management of an inquiry, my experience tells me that I should also have a clear strategy from an early stage and have a real focus on resolution and try to get HMRC's buy-in, again at a relatively early stage, into some form of action plan or agreement as to how matters will progress and how ultimately the inquiry will be concluded. As my experience tells me, without this sort of focus on resolution and getting HMRC to commit to some form of action plan, inquiries can, even with the best intentions, take far too long to actually bring to a conclusion. So having a clear strategy helps me to, for example, avoid the temptation of agreeing adjustments or any issues as the inquiry progresses. This can be despite a pressure to do so by the inspector. So by keeping everything open until the final stages or any final negotiation stage of the investigation, helps me then to ensure that I've got some items in which I can negotiate with to reach that final acceptable outcome. So if at the end of the inquiry it's found that there is additional tax to be paid, then your advisories should be seeking to reduce or vacate any penalties by ensuring that the reasons why the errors occurred are properly understood and have been effectively articulated to HMRC. So your advisor should have a detailed understanding of the current penalty regime in order to ensure that you get the best possible outcome.